Sagan was a member of Voyager's imaging team. And it was his idea that Voyager take one last picture. A generation before, an astronaut on the last Apollo flight to the moon had taken a picture of the whole Earth, the planet as a world without borders. It became an icon of a new consciousness. Carl realized the next step in this process.
Carl Sagan had this idea that before we have to shut the cameras down, let's turn around, look back towards the sun, and let's take a picture of our solar system, unlike any that had ever been taken before. And there was actually opposition to it.
He convinced NASA to turn the Voyager 1 camera back towards Earth when the spacecraft went beyond Neptune for one last look homeward at what he called the pale blue dot.
They just didn't want to do it. They couldn't get their heads around what would be the point of taking a picture of the Earth and Jupiter and so on, because they're just going to be little points of light. So Carl, being Carl, actually went all the way to the NASA administrator and got him to direct the Jet Propulsion Laboratory to take this series of pictures.
From a unique vantage point, nearly 4 billion miles away, Voyager 1's cameras turned homeward to take family snapshots. It was Valentine's Day, 1990.
When we did our portrait of each of the planets, I was the first person to look at the pictures, and I knew every blemish, and so I could pretty quickly go blemish, blemish, blemish. And I thought, well, where's the Earth? How could we, And then I realized there were a lot of streaks of light in that image. And I realized finally that the Earth was sitting in one of those rays of light. I just sat there for a while, just kind of realizing, wow, that's the Earth. That's Voyager looking back at the Earth.
My first impulse is to take my hand and wipe away the dust, because there was some dust on it. Well, one of the pieces of dust that I wanted to wipe away was the Earth. But it didn't matter, because in the hands of Carl, he turned it into an allegory on the human condition.
And the next slide. The Earth in a sunbeam. In this color picture, you can see that it is in fact less than a pixel. And this is where we live, on a blue dot. On that blue dot, that's where everyone you know and everyone you ever heard of and every human being who ever lived out their lives. I think this perspective underscores our responsibility to preserve and cherish that blue dot, the only home we have.
That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings. How eager they are to kill one another. How fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves.